Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Galome Elevation Talks. My name is Dumelo Siemwile, also known as your favorite Galome. In this week's episode, I will be interviewing Angel Tchouen, who is a dear friend of mine. Met her 4 years ago, and she's become one of those consistent, lifelong friends that I know will be around for a long time. She's very driven and she is very passionate about fighting against racial inequality and fighting against racial injustices. And she's also passionate about uplifting underserved communities and ensuring that as Black people and minorities, we are uplifting each other and we are helping each other grow. She's worked with multiple startups to ensure that this happens and has started a few organizations of her own. She currently works at a mental health institution as a quality improvement manager and has been doing that for a little over a year. But we won't go into mental health just for today. I'll definitely bring her back for another episode. So I do hope that this episode will be enlightening to you and will urge you to want to contribute more to your community and in the uplifting of Black people. So please do enjoy this conversation that I'm about to have with her, as it's gonna be insightful. I'm definitely sure of that. And she's gonna give you a lot of gems on how we as Black people and allies can help the Black community and underrepresented communities actually uplift and become much more stronger.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angel, and today I'm gonna have a conversation with you guys about how to better empower Black communities and really moving from a stage of awareness to a stage of action, how our actions could be impactful to the Black community. So I want to start off by highlighting the events that happened earlier this year. Um, Unfortunate events. We've seen the death, or the whole world has seen on social media, the death of Ahmaud Arbery. Right after that, the death of George Floyd. That sparked a lot of global outrage. And really, I think that's the event that really woke people up to the reality of racism in the United States and the things that Black people were, going through in this country. Um, Even after that, we still had to go through seeing videos of young Black men like Elijah McClain being unfairly killed by the police, or even the case of Breonna Taylor, and so many hundreds of Black people before them, videos that we have watched, and even stories that we have not watched and that we will probably never know of, but that has happened. So this is a reality that many Black people face here in this country. And it was interesting to see that on social media, a lot of people, took on these social media apps to voice their the fact that they were shocked, the fact that they were sad, they were tired of seeing all of this, they were outraged, and also a lot of allyship came out of this. A lot of people came and took public stands to protect the Black community, to amplify voices of Black people, to stand as an ally to the Black people. And that has got a lot of hashtags trending. We had a period of Black Lives Matter hashtag trending on Twitter and other social media. We had a Blackout Tuesday where millions of people across the world changed their profile picture to, plain Black, and, posted Black squares to raise awareness on what is happening to the Black community at this moment in time. And I think this is a very important piece of history where people are realizing that racism is really not dead. It's still very much present, and some people live life continuously, day after day, with the shadow of racism, um, behind their backs. So now there is no more Black Lives Matter trending hashtag. No more Blackout Tuesday. No more I can't break hashtag. It seems like our lives have come back to normal on social media, but we do not want to let this momentum die. We really want to support the Black communities in this moment, especially now that we are aware of what is going on. How can we be active agents of change? How can we be active agents of empowerment for people, for underserved communities, for people who are facing, racial inequalities every day? And so I came up with a few, actionable things that we can do besides just posting on social media, which is, again, a very great way to get the word out there, to get people to understand what's going on. So, but what do we do aside from that? What do we do in our day-to-day actions? What do we do in our communities, in our place of work, to fight against racism towards Black people? First thing, really, one of my favorite things to do is supporting Black communities, Black businesses. First, we have to know that Black businesses are very underrepresented in the US. They form 7% of small businesses, while the Black community, while Black people make up 13% of the population of the country. African Americans are more likely than any other racial group to start a business, but the business is also more likely to die because of barriers like lack of access to capital and also lack of clientele. So you see there's a lot of African Americans or Black people are very entrepreneurial, but how do we support these businesses within these communities that will make the community to thrive economically? So African American buying power is at 1.1 trillion, and if we had to put that in terms of country GDP, African Americans will make up about, I think, the 16th largest country in the world in terms of GDP. So there is so much buying power within the community. But another barrier that we see is that the dollar does not stay for a long time within the Black community. So while the dollar within Asian communities takes about a month to circulate within the community before it goes out, about 20 days within the Jewish community before it goes out, about 17 days within the white community before it goes out. It only circulates for 6 hours within the Black community. So that means that it on 2.2 cents per dollar that an African American spends goes to Black owned businesses altogether. So this is really a shocking reality. And one thing that we have to take into consideration is that for this problem to be solved, this racial inequality problems to be solved, we need to empower the people that are directly impacted by racism. How do we empower them? How do we, give them the tools to fight for themselves? And I really enjoy supporting Black owned businesses, and really, you know, be it where I am locally or even when I travel, I try to go to a Black owned coffee shop, go to a Black owned store, buy Black, really empower these communities because they do not enjoy economic of scales yet. So that's one thing that we can all do to support to support black communities by buying more black. Another thing that we can do to support black owned communities or black communities or black people altogether is to lead with empathy. So, right now, we are in the midst of COVID 19. COVID 19 has affected everybody across the world in this period of time. But we see that in the United States, it has affected African Americans at a higher rate, at a disproportionate rate. So, people are tired. And on top of COVID 19, we're living in a racial stressful climate. So really being empathetic about your black coworker, about your black friends, checking on them, but not necessarily doing that with the mindset of getting gratitude in return or with the mindset of even getting a response in return, but really showing empathy and understanding. Another thing that we can all do is educating ourselves, reading more about the history of Black people in America or the history of Black people in the country that you come from, in the region that you come from, or in the community that you live in or you're a part of. Really understanding what is the role that Black people play or have played and keep playing in the community. Really reading from supporting black owned bookstores, um, and getting these material that are geared towards awareness, understanding historically, economically, and just understanding the black community as a whole. Another thing that we can do altogether is speak up in non-black places. So this could mean conversations with our non-black family members in our um, non-black neighborhood, in our non-black church, or in communities where you don't usually find black people, or if you are a part of a community that isn't black, you are white, you're Asian, you are Hispanic. Really speaking in these spaces where you could hear you know very uneducated comments about black people from family members, from friends. That is the time that we need to get out of our comfort zones. We need to open up these conversations, actively listening, but also being firm on your stand for black people in your community. We need more of these voices that are going to bridge the gap between black people and other communities. Another thing that we can do is to be an ally. So, how do we be an ally? By getting uncomfortable, by, I know from personal experience, speaking with non Black people about racism can be very uncomfortable to them, but that's how you become an ally, by understanding where the pain of Black people comes from and what responsibility do you have to help break down that cycle for black people. So these are a few resources that I thought I would share in order for us to go from a more awareness state to an actionable state, to a stage that will where your actions will directly impact black people in a positive way. And for that to be even more effective, we have to make that into a habit. It has to be of second nature almost for us to support black communities. It has to be of second nature for us to stop by and buy our things from a black grocery store and buy our things from a black store altogether, in applying to work in a black owned company and things like that. It has to be of second nature for us to just not be non-racist, but to be actively anti-racist. It has to be of second nature for us to speak up for black people, to make space for black people, even in the workplace. To all to do is to amplify the voices of black people everywhere and anywhere that we are. This is, I think, to me, one of the most, these are, I think, to me, one of the most effective ways that we can create change altogether at a very personal level, at a very, common level. It's true that we need policies and we need policies and laws in place to create a structural impact, but we can also create impact in our sphere of influence, and that's what we all need to strive to do. So thank you for joining me in my room to talk about how we can positively empower Black communities. Hello!
Oh, bonjour, Angel.
Bonjour, comment allez-vous? J'espère que vous...
No, 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 no. You know, I just ended bonjour. It
Oh,
doesn't get any
wow.
deeper than that.
I really thought you had a little bit of that in you, huh?
I should have practiced some more, but
I'll give you lessons anytime.
thank you so much for coming on, babes. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for inviting me on here. You know, I'm a fan of Galome Elevation Talks, and I'll keep
Hi.
being a
I
part
got fans. I got
of it.
fans.
Thank you, and keep doing the great work because this is needed. Platforms like
Thank you. Thank you. That was a very impactful talk. And I think one that we should have had even, I mean, this was before GET started, but we should have had it a while back, you and I. But, before we even get into the talk itself,
Mhm.
I like to give my my guests a face. I want to give them personality. So
Yeah,
I want people to be able to relate to my guests and people to kind of know where you're coming from, who
yeah.
you are, what you're about. So just give us a little spiel about yourself. Who is
Mhm.
Angele?
Oh, who is Angele? So I come from Cameroon, Central Africa, and I moved to the US about, I think, 6 years ago now. Lived in San Francisco, uh, in the Bay Area. Went to school in San Francisco, lived in Oakland, which is still my favorite city in the world till this day.
Why? Why is that?
Oakland, because Oakland is a very historic city for me. It's the city of the
Mm,
Black Panthers. Um, I love the weather in Oakland.
mm,
I love
mm,
the
mm.
diversity in Oakland. It's very diverse compared to the entire Bay Area. And
Mm.
I'm not too sure how Oakland looks like now, but at the time when I was there, it just felt so good. It's like everyone is a little activist of something there, like people there have purpose. And there's
Yeah.
artists in Oakland. There is
Mm,
so much
mm.
art in the city, so in the town. So I like Oakland.
Yeah, I can tell you that it still looks good. I live here now, so it
But
still looks good.
planning the trip after 19. Yeah. But what else about me? Yeah, so I went to business school at Holt International Business School where I met you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's why I got my bachelor's in business administration and entrepreneurship. And then I moved here to the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. Just
Girl, I was like, where the hell is DMV? Like, you getting your license? Like,
no, 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 not the no, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I live in Maryland and I work in DC. So I work in DC in a startup mental health service agency. and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a quality improvement manager there. It's also, we're talking about Black businesses. It's a Black owned startup agency. And basically, what we do in a nutshell is provide mental health and community support services to residents of the District of Columbia.
Mm.
And so I've been doing that for about a year and a half. And yeah, I really enjoy working there. What I do apart from work, I've been working a lot. I worked during COVID and not from home. So it's
Mm.
stressful. It's stressful, but again,
And you had COVID, right? At some point?
oh wow, blast me.
No, no, no. But I mean, in a sense of like,
It is.
you, through this pandemic, you were one of the people that were impacted.
Yes, I was, and I had the COVID, and the interesting thing about it is we getting tested is
Mm.
very, very, I can't stress enough about how important it is, especially because I never really had to. Well, I work from home sometimes, really, but not
Mm.
always. My work requires me to actually be there in person, so you get to be outside, and you never
Mm.
know where you're gonna catch it. So I went to get tested as soon as I started coughing a little bit. I was
Mm.
like,
Mm. Mm.
let me go get tested. And I got back positive results. And I was asymptomatic for 2 weeks.
Mm.
I had to quarantine at home I actually stayed longer than 2 weeks because, you know, anyway. But I was asymptomatic. And that's the thing about this disease as well. We walk around feeling like we're okay, but we could
Mm.
be carriers of the COVID. So it's definitely good to get, tested every once in a while. I try to do
Mm.
this at least once a month because
Yeah, same, same.
at least once a month.
Same. But I'm definitely glad that you're back in good health, because I know when you got the COVID, you told me and a couple of other people, and I was actually very scared.
Yeah, you were so scared. And I'm good. I'm asymptomatic. Like I'm not coughing. I don't have fever. I feel great-ish.
I was like, girl, what's going to happen with my girl? Like, what's going on? Oh my God.
Carrying the
Brad, I know I haven't talked to you in a while, but look after my girl.
He did not disappoint. I'm here. I'm doing well and making sure I stay safe.
Mm, mm, mm. Now, going back to the topic at hand, would you say that you've always been passionate and driven about issues that affect the Black community, even in while you were still back home?
So when I was back home, it's very interesting being from out a Black person outside of the US, back in Cameroon, for instance, and then coming into the US. In Cameroon, everybody is Black, so we don't
Mm,
necessarily have racial issues like that. And
mm,
however, when I was back home, I was very passionate about justice, just plain blank.
mm,
I really hated seeing cases of injustice at school, around me, and I was always an agent of, speaking up against anything that I felt was unfair. So when I
mm.
came over to the United States and pretty much had that shock that being Black actually meant something.
Woo, girl, I know that shock.
You
I
know the
know that.
shock.
You
Black,
like, oh,
Black,
I'm Black now?
like, I'm Black? I mean, you're Black, but then you look at yourself again and you're like, oh, it means something
Like, it could work against me? Like,
against me?
yeah, yeah.
So, and to me, that was very unfair. That was very unjust that people that look like me, couldn't get to where they have to be only because they were
Mm,
and really living in Oakland taught me a lot about the realities of African Americans in this country. So I started reading a lot of history and really comparing it to where I come from, but also stories in other countries, like even in South Africa or even
mm,
Black people in Brazil and what they go through. So and that's how my passion kind of started building up because I wanted to see the communities that I identify with, that look like me. I wanted to see them thrive, and not thrive in a way that they have to supersede other people, but just flourishing because they deserve to, at the
Mm,
same, rate that any other community deserves to flourish,
mm, mm.
So that's why, it became a part of me to actively work to empower Black communities really anywhere.
Mm. And I think, coming to campus, this is my first year at Halt. I think maybe even my first day. You were one of the people that were so pro-black. She was trying to get all the black people together. She had a little shrine where all the black people would hang out, a safe space, if I may say. It was a safe space for us to kind of gather, to kind of talk about black issues, to kind of learn, because I think a lot of us were international, right? So coming into America, we had the very same shock of,
Exactly.
wow, being black actually means something. And you were one of the pioneers to kind of instill that within a lot of us. And I think even after you left, some of that effect has kind of lived on. I'm even more aware of black issues and issues that affect black people, mostly because of you. I wouldn't even need to read the news when Angel was there. I just come to school like, hey, she'd be like, listen.
What happened? you know,
Yeah, no, it was a great time to have you.
Thank you.
Go on.
I think it's very important because when you are the Black minority in a
Mm,
predominantly non-Black school, so what happens, or in a predominantly white place or space in
mm,
general, what happens is that you tend to want to dim your light, because nobody else around looks like you, so you tend to want to assimilate in order to be accepted,
mm,
and that
mm,
assimilation always means hiding whatever characteristics makes you black, makes you who you are, for other
mm.
people to not be uncomfortable around you, for
And
other
not feel intimidated by you.
intimidated by you, exactly. But I think nobody should have to deem their nature in order to be accepted, so that's why
Mm,
I thought, getting together was a good thing, so we could give ourselves words of affirmation, because when
mm,
we go out
mm.
there in the wild, we're like, oh, they're trying to touch your hair, so you want to be like, okay, let me come back to the source and, refresh myself and be myself around the people that understand me, but also looking for ways that we can help other people that are outside of our community to come join us, learn from us, and they never have to dim their light for us to embrace them,
Mm,
so
mm.
that sort of thing is, one thing that I really enjoy doing in college.
Yeah, it's really important that we stick together. During your talk, you touch upon some really important points, right? And I can say that a lot of us are aware of the issues faced by Black people. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. However, when it comes to investing our money into Black economies, as I'll call them, or businesses, we are not intentional about it.
Right, right.
I mean, goddamn, if you asked me when was the last time I bought something black, girl, I don't have an answer for you. You asking for a lot. You see, and I think a lot of us don't really think and are not intentional about going to buy um, from black businesses.
Mhm.
Um, because I think one point as well is that buying black is expensive. For a t-shirt you could get for $10 at a Target or a Walmart,
Mhm.
a black business will sell the very same t-shirt for $25-$30.
That's right. Oof.
Now, my question to you is, how do you then navigate around that? Because I know you're somebody that buys a lot of black owned businesses, and from black owned businesses, how do you get the money to buy to invest like that?
First of all, I'm a baller. I'm kidding.
Ah.
No, I'm not a baller yet, but working towards that. No, but you're very right. I want to acknowledge that because this T-shirt, for instance, is I bought it from a black-owned place, and I could have gotten the same T-shirt for 5 times cheaper, 3 to 5 times cheaper, actually. And it's not like I would like to like waste my money on buying expensive things with you know no value, but I feel like it really depends on a shift. It's really a shift of mindset, right? And I look at it that way, this way. If I buy from a black owned place, yes, it's going to be more expensive, but then again it turns me into a minimalist. At least that's the experience that I've gotten. When I think about, okay, I need to shop, or like, we all buy from impulse. Not everything that we buy is something that we need, right?
Mm,
Just
mm,
because it tends to be very cheap or affordable to you at that time, you're like, okay, let me cop this, and you don't
mm,
always need these things. So what I try to do is I balance that. I try to be more intentional about the things that I actually need to spend my money on,
mhm,
and I try to buy those products from a black owned place. So I tend to buy less altogether.
mm,
And when I use my money, I support a black owned business and create that impact. So instead of old Angel that will buy 10 t-shirts that cost $5 from, I don't know, H&M or so, you know,
mm,
I and I will never wear 10 t-shirts, but I tend to have all these t-shirts. I will buy 2 t-shirts from a black owned place that
mm,
cost $25 each. At the end of the day, I'm trying to be as minimalistic as I can with buying only what I want and what I need, sorry. And that need can be fulfilled at a black owned place, you know?
mhm,
So
mhm,
that's how I try to navigate around this. And it takes time, and it's challenging because the way, or let's say your relationship with money and things are already set a certain way, and you have to reprogram your brain in a way. It's like
mm,
an exercise. You have to reprogram your brain in a way and say, okay, I want impact, I want intention, so I have to sacrifice this in order to get this. That tends to be more fulfilling at the end of the day to me, so.
But would you also say on this same exact topic, would you say that there's been a perspective in people's minds that black owned businesses or merchandise is lower quality than what you get from Target and all the other places? And in your experience, how true has this been?
Oh no, there definitely has been. It's a thing that people feel like, when you're buying from a black owned place, the quality will not be as good, but the
Mm,
price will be skyrocketed. And yes, you will definitely see instances like that. But you
mm,
see that for any other business. There's
yeah.
businesses out there that have shitty quality, excuse my French.
Mhm.
The price is crazy. And I
Mm,
also think it's because another piece is people don't really take time to look up black owned places. um there is a lot of black owned places out there, so it's not just clothing, but I've seen, like, yesterday I discovered a black owned watch brand. I
mm,
discovered a black owned women pad brand,
mm,
black owned, and I would never think that there are black people that are doing things like that. But she was even featured. Her products sell at Target. It's a black woman business, and I
mm,
was so, sometimes we just don't know where to search. There is another day I discovered a black owned men grooming you know, brand. And I
mm,
said to myself, oh, wow, I went to their website and it looked so amazing. I forwarded this to a male friend of mine, and he said, oh, I shop from there, and this has been the best grooming products I've ever used. I said, oh wow, really?
Mm,
So, and sometimes we see these brands, we don't know that they are Black owned. So I think it's really another piece is doing research,
mm,
on the company, and really seeing what products they have to offer,
mm.
But definitely, I think we need to kill that myth that Black businesses equate to low quality products.
Low
There are
quality.
some out there that are doing a fantastic job. Yeah.
That is beautifully answered. And there's something that I'm starting to realize as well is that, like, in terms of like grooming products and like skincare,
Mhm.
we oftentimes buy just your generic brands, but when you go to the specifically Black brands, they create skincare stuff that is specific to Black
Like,
skin.
mhm, mhm.
And I know you started using a brand recently. How's
Yeah.
that been for you?
Yeah. So, just like you said, for skincare, first of all, I have acne skin,
Mm,
and all a lot of, like, oily type skin, and I was using all these Neutrogena products, Aveeno, and things like that. Then one day I fell on again on Instagram. Instagram is really where I find all these things. I don't know how the algorithm works, but they've been sending me all Black owned brands
girl,
lately.
because they know you all Black
They
everything
really
all
know
day.
what's going on. So I fell on this Black owned brand. It's actually a family owned business, and it's Black.
Mm,
And I went on their website. I looked at the reviews. I checked on in different other sources, and I found out that, well, people were getting into it. I loved the company because it was vegan, all natural products, cruelty free.
mm.
So these other aspects really, shaped me into, oh wow, no chemicals. This is what I want. So then I bought two products from them, and then started using it, and saw the difference. Like, I haven't had a pimple in 3 months. And
Okay, girl, you need to hook me up because
I will hook
look
you.
at this face, girl.
So I've been using just that. And I'm going to say, yes, it's more expensive than the generic brands, but also all my lives, I've been buying $10 Aveeno products, $12 Neutrogena, or $8, and I keep buying them and seeing no results. But then I'm
Mm,
investing in this brand that is Black owned, and they do really good quality products, and I'm seeing the results. So even though it's more expensive, I tend to buy less of the products, right?
mm,
Because you
mm,
buy more of the $8 stuff every 2 weeks, and
mm,
there's
mm.
no impact on my face.
So it's about the quality, then it then translates to the quality that you get.
Yes, and that quality, on top of just getting a quality product, I am also supporting a Black owned.
I love that. I love that. So in your talk, you do also give a statistic about, how long the dollar circulates within different communities. Could you explain a little bit more about that and how you would say that the dollar taking about, I think you said 6 hours to circulate within the Black community negatively impacts the community?
So if you consider that African Americans have a buying power of 1.1 trillion, so and then you so that's a cool thing to know, like 1.1 trillion, that's awesome. But then you turn around and you look within the community, and you see that the businesses don't have a long lifespan. You see that African Americans are not buying from the local people in their stores. They know. But then you turn around and you look at other communities and you learn from them. If you look at the Asian community, you go to Asian markets, you see how they support, the businesses within their community. If you go to, I don't know, Hispanic communities, there is always they know where to get their bread, they know where to groceries, they know where to get their this, their that from the members of the community. So
They have
the
very strong, like, Chinese markets or like
Korean
different market.
market,
Yeah, yeah.
and these people go there to do their shopping versus maybe
All the
shopping
time.
from Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or Giant or any
Mm,
other, So that makes the money, or like the dollar, circulate within the economy. I take my money and I give it I spend it in a I don't know, in a grocery store that is a Chinese grocery store. If I'm Chinese, I send it to a Chinese grocery store. The guy at the Chinese grocery store, goes out again and maybe he buys something inside the market. So the money comes from your people to your people, and
mm,
that's how it circulates within the community before it ever leaves out the community.
mm, mm,
And it
mm,
circulates
mm.
like that for 30 days. So you see that with that money, the Chinese people are able to grow their communities. In 30 days, if you have a consistent supply of money within the community, then you have the most, a larger means to grow your
Mm,
community. I can expand my little business and employ, five more members of my community that are sitting there and don't have a job, you know.
mm.
But with the Black community, the money only stays for 6 hours. So all what we have, we're spending it outside of our communities for other communities to grow,
To
right?
grow. Mm,
For
mm,
other
mm.
communities to grow. And what are we left with? We are left with relying on, local authorities or governments for, empowering our communities and growing our
And
communities. That's
funding.
not always
Yeah.
and funding, and that's not always easy because of systemic racism as well. So an intentional action is for even Black people ourselves to turn back into our community and invest in our communities by supporting, buying more Black, but also creating. Also, one thing that I don't know that I mentioned in the talk is that Black owned businesses are the second largest employer of Black people after the government.
Mm,
So, yeah, so at the end of the day, when we open these businesses, when we have these foundations, when we create these entities, we also tend to employ more of us to work
mm,
for
mm,
us,
mm,
you know, and grow our communities. So the more we keep the dollar within the African American community or within the Black community, the more we are able to expand our communities, the more we are able to provide innovation, the more we are able to employ other people, other members of our communities that aren't being employed anywhere else. Again,
mm.
being a Black person looking for a job is another topic.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's another topic. I know.
So at the end of the day, we need these communities to grow economically as well, and we
Mm.
can't keep relying on the government because that's a fight gonna that's not gonna happen in
In
instantly.
a yeah, in a day's time. Yeah, yeah.
But when we take matters within our hands, we are able to impact at a faster rate.
Mm. And as you explain it, it almost sounds to me like a domino effect. By us investing into the community, we're able to employ more Black people.
Mhm.
By us employing more Black people, maybe maybe the I will say like the crime rates may increase because now people don't have to go out there and look for money or
Right,
look for
right.
things. Now they have actual jobs that will be paying them, and that can tackle a whole lot of other things. Even family dynamics I feel could be
Exactly.
improved
Absolutely.
once we start doing this.
Exactly.
So that is definitely a good point.
Yeah.
um and so before we go for an ad break, I just want to ask you, like, what do you think, or what are some tips that we can give to Black owned businesses for them to improve their services or their products in order for them to get bought more, or them to see more, lucrative to buy. And I know this is probably a larger topic that we could probably tackle on a
Mhm.
different episode, but just a few tips and pointers.
So I think as a black owned business, you want to improve on customer service. I
Mm,
think customer service is, if you really have your customer service locked down, then it almost wouldn't matter how much your pricing your product are at. As long as
mm,
the customer is happy, they will come back, right? uh, from supporting a lot of small black owned businesses, another tip that I would give them is to improve on their marketing, building a
mm,
website, investing in building a website and really branding their products, all the way from their logo, their name, all the way down to their package. Like when you receive a package, you want it in a really nice something,
mm,
you know and those are little steps that they can take to make us, the buyers, want to buy more, but also want to refer them to somebody else.
mm, mm,
So
mm.
I think a lot of black entrepreneurs, small business entrepreneurs, are very focused on trying to stay above the water. They're very
Mm.
focused on, not dying, or like, surviving, their business to survive. So they tend to forget every other aspect that makes a business. you know
Mm, mm,
so
mm,
they need a little bit more of innovation in that sense. And I'm talking about the small black owned businesses, because when you go to the medium sized ones, then you see them apply these things and they get a
yeah.
more traction than the
Mm,
small ones
mm.
that tend to be very local community, and just like, oh, please buy my product kind of thing, you know so these are some tips that I think could be helpful to black entrepreneurs. But also, one other thing is investing in educating yourself as an entrepreneur, going to,
I was about to say that. Yeah.
yes, educating yourself as an entrepreneur, going to, there are, well, now because of COVID, but then even online, there are events for small business entrepreneurs that happen online, where they can get skills and tools on how to build their business and manage it even more
Mm.
effectively. I think if they really take time to go to these, and sometimes these events are even free of charge, that would help a lot, because that will give them the skills and the tools to build their businesses, and make sure that they have a solid foundation.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. As you were talking, I was like, oh, I'm going to add this. And then you just took it right out of my mouth. I also just think that that's a problem that a lot of Black small businesses have, is that I almost sometimes feel like they're very impulsive
Right.
to start.
Right.
But when you start, you don't have an action plan. You don't have
Right.
a
They don't even
marketing
have a
plan.
business plan. Yeah.
You don't have a business plan, or you haven't even done any research and development, R&D, any investment. I mean, that could literally be on your laptop. You don't have to go out there and you
Mm-hmm.
could literally be on your laptop and do some of that research, because if you look at the most successful companies, they spend so much on
Oh,
research
yeah.
and
Yeah.
development. So I think that is definitely a good point. We need to start investing more in research and development and creating that solid foundation for our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we do that,
Mm-hmm.
the sky's the limit. I feel like a lot of businesses would actually be thriving.
Yeah.
And also another thing is coming together as little small businesses, coming
Um,
together and ensuring that,
Making partnerships too. Yeah.
exactly, ensuring that we're doing partnerships, we're in unison, we're kind of doing and applying the same methods. Maybe the core methods are kind of the same,
Right.
and then we can obviously add our little differentiation things that make
Mm-hmm.
our businesses special.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are in unison and people can see that, people know that if I go to a Black owned businesses, this is kind of the practice that
Mm-hmm.
I will expect. If we set the bar high for customer service, this is the level that you'll get from any Black businesses. This
Right.
is the quality that you'll get. I think a lot of these businesses would actually grow and become successful.
Right. No, that is very true. That is very true. And not to, I mean, competition is always healthy. It's
Mm,
always a good thing, but it has to be done in a healthy way in terms of if we're looking at empowering the community all together.
mm, mm.
They could even have like a referral program where if you go to a black owned company, they can tell you, oh, you're looking for this kind of product. Oh, maybe you should go next door.
This person has
Another
it. Yeah.
has it, that kind of thing, so
Mm. I love that. I love that. I love
that.
that. And on that note, actually, we're gonna go on a small ad break, and you'll get to see a little video of Angele doing her thing, um, doing her thing, and then we'll be right back to continue this conversation and wrap up. I still have a few more questions for her, but they might be not in line with the topic. But please do stay tuned to hear more about Angele and her take on supporting and empowering Black businesses.
Make every Friday a Black Friday. Supporting Black businesses closes the racial wealth gap, creates jobs, and strengthens the local economy.
The Black App is important to me because it's an easy, effortless way to stay connected to my Black community while supporting Black-owned businesses.
The Black App is important because it supports Black-owned businesses and keeps the dollar circulating in the Black community.
Get the Black App at blackapp.com.
Okay, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to Gallup Elevation Talks. You are still tuning in to GET with your host, your favorites. Huh? Your favorites. aka Galome and Angele, who's been giving us the lows and downs of, supporting and how we can empower our communities. So, Angel, I have a completely different question. Do you think that the Black Lives Matter hashtag and movement is as effective as it once was, or has it kind of died out?
So that is a very good question. This is what I think. I think with the Black Lives Matter movement, so the movement has been created to kind of fight against police brutality within the Black, that against the Black community. So
Mm,
now the Black Lives Matter movement over the years have taken different turns.
mm,
And it has grown so much that there is a chapter in every city, in every county.
mm,
So there's a different chapter of Black Lives Matter kind of everywhere that you are, and those are kind of managed almost independently.
mm-hmm,
So, and the things that they do in the community are different depending on what are the specific issues that are happening within that community. So
mm,
I think altogether the Black Lives Matter movement have a good mission, which is
mm,
to fight against police brutality. But I have definitely encountered moments where you would question the validity of the movement, right? There's been questions about where the funding is actually going. Is it actually impacting the community as it's meant to be, and
mm,
things like that. So these are questions that come up because a Black Lives Matter chapter in X region maybe has mismanaged the funds and things like that, which just gives a bad image of the movement altogether. But I think during the the whole social media uproar thing that happened,
mm,
the Black Lives Matter hashtag was very instrumental in raising awareness onto why do we need to all work together to stop racism and police violence. It was instrumental in getting traction, because just the phrase Black Lives Matter already compels you. Okay, what's going on? What's the story?
Mm.
So yeah, I'm not too sure about the future of Black Lives Matter as a movement, but I do think that with people um, getting more and more aware of what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, there is going to be, or I hope that there is, more movements like that,
Mm.
that are meant or are geared towards fighting against racism, fighting against police brutality. Black Lives Matter does not have to be like a monolith or even a monopoly in the social justice space. There is definitely place for other organizations like that. But I think it has been a very instrumental force behind fighting against police brutality.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, and then also when it comes to allies, I know during the whole social media uproar, there was a lot of talk around allies and what their purpose is. A lot of allies, a lot of people were posting the blackout Tuesdays, or were posting and resharing stuff. And sorry. Yeah, no, there was a whole lot of talk on, you know, oh, you people are all talk, no action. You people are just reposting because it's popular. You people are
Right,
reposting because of this and this. And the other side of that is that a lot of people, black people, were doing the same too.
right, right.
Well, a lot of people were doing the same. And then now I feel like this is how I personally felt, is
Mhm,
that
mhm.
the approach in which we as black people were reacting to some of these um, non-people of color sharing and reposting was a little aggressive,
Mhm.
because firstly, some of us were doing it. Secondly, some of these people are trying to learn. And
Right,
I understand there's a whole thing of, it's not my job to teach you.
right,
But at the same time, if we are always shutting people down and not giving them the grace and the space to say, okay, here, let me educate you, or here, let me teach you a few things, or here, let me give you a few resources that you can
mhm,
go to, then we're not really doing much for the movement.
right.
We're not really having much of an impact on our black counterparts.
Mm.
What's your take on that?
No, you're right. What I'm gonna say is that during that period, I want to acknowledge the fact that there was a lot of emotions out there.
Mm,
Just a lot of emotions. Black people just being tired of being
girl,
white.
I was tired too.
Me too. And I think for me personally, I shut down completely and I'm just
Mm,
now opening back. But during that time, I completely shut down. I was emotionally almost empty, but that's
mm.
because there was just too much to take in. You were like, wow.
Because
This
we just started with the whole corona, then this, then that, then ooh,
right.
yeah.
There was a lot of emotions out there, and I think social media is definitely a space where people share. They share the good
Mm,
things, but they also share the bad things. They share everything. This is just a sharing kind of space. And I think when something sad happens to the black community, on top of grieving, there's people who grieve, but there are also people that are angry, you know
mm,
and
mm,
I'm
mm,
not, and the anger is not always directed the right way,
mm,
because you could channel your anger into actions that are gonna directly positively impact your community, or you could just spew out anger, and
mm,
that is exactly what happened on social media. I mean, me personally, I had a period where I started questioning all the so-called, all the people that I called friends that are non-black, and I was wondering,
mm,
hey, these people haven't reached out to me. These people aren't. they don't seem to be talking about this. The Black community is crying, and you know,
Your silence.
you
Your
are
silence is deafening. I remember
your
that
silence
one.
is very loud right now.
Mm,
I can't even hear the tears of Black people anymore. All I hear is your silence.
mm,
It's your silence. So um, it does affect you that way, because I think that comes with the shock of
mm.
seeing these videos of Black people, plus social media heightening every emotion, you know.
Yeah.
So I decided to kind of like take a break, shut down, for a while. I wasn't going on social media, or I wasn't, uh, uh, partaking in any of the activities, in any of the
Mm,
hashtags, in any of the. I was just kind of like in my bubble, and
mm,
the same way. Some people reached out to me and told me, "Wow, I expected you to be a little bit more vocal during this time, but they gave me grace when I
mm.
explained to them that I just wasn't in the right emotional mindset to say and do anything.
Anything.
These people give
Mm.
me grace. So you are right about the Black community giving grace to people who want to be allies as
Mm.
well. They just don't know how to go about it the best way. You don't just wake up and you know how to be an ally when you've lived in your white world your entire life.
That is true. That is so true.
Really, it's unrealistic to expect someone to just wake up and say, oh, and know that, hey, you can't touch my hair, or hey, you can. I mean, you have
Mm.
to know some microaggressions, you have to know some, well, okay.
There's some basics to
There's
this,
some
basic knowledge. Yeah.
But in terms of true allyship, and then sitting down and being in uncomfortable conversations, um, the willingness to do that, I think we need to embrace that, because not just conversations on racism, but none of us like uncomfortable conversations. We
Mm,
really don't.
mm,
We don't
mm,
like
mm,
uncomfortable conversations about maybe our private lives. We don't like uncomfortable conversations about our finances and things like.
mm,
We just tend to not like uncomfortable conversations. Now we expect people to know how to navigate racially charged conversations when they've only lived in their white world. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be times where they will say the wrong thing, they will do the wrong thing.
mm.
What we need to look at is the intention behind, and if you're really able to feel that the intention was not to hurt, but
Heard.
but to help and not hurt, you know
Mm,
so I definitely think that that's the way that we even build more sustainable partnerships and impactful partnerships with other ethnicities and other races. They have to feel, that we are open to them coming to us in and lending a helping hand. Because
mm.
sometimes, as you said, when you're looking angry, or you're looking mad, or you're looking like, you're about to explode, if I want to help you, I'll, be a
I'll
little,
turn the other way, be like, okay, bye.
okay, bye. It looks like you're about to hurt me instead.
Uh,
So I agree with that. And another thing that I saw on social media, which I think it started this other trend, besides just the hashtags, a lot of content creators started creating content specifically for non-Black people who want to be allies. Like I saw,
yeah, yeah. There was a lot of that.
how do you become an ally? How do you act in in spaces where there are a lot more people of color? As a white
Mm,
person, what are the things that I shouldn't say that are insensitive? What are the things that I should say? There is a lot of content out there now that, and I learned a lot from it too, because I was wondering, what am I going to tell my non Black friends, or people around me?
mm.
And these tools were also helpful for me, to inform myself on how to approach them, but also, if they approach me, what information do I
Send them the resources. Mm,
exactly, and in what
mm,
way? What can my tone look like when I'm telling someone, hey, um, maybe you should look up this person because they have really interesting resources on Black history or the history of African Americans. So that kind of stuff versus go and read for yourself.
Mm.
There
You
is a
know what? The perspective of Angel now versus Angel 4 years ago. 4 years ago, Angel would have been like, they must learn themselves.
yeah, no,
Why
that's
should we be
true.
teaching them?
You know,
Why?
it's also a growing and learning path for myself,
Mm,
because when I look back and I sometimes I look back and I tell myself, oh wow, I burnt these bridges that I could have fixed,
mm,
with people in terms of just they maybe they hurt me in a way, and it was like maybe a racial action. Did they mean it? Did they not? I would not know. But I could have been the bigger person this way or that way. So that's what I try to do now. Um,
mm.
and it's also going with the piece of being intentional, because
Yeah.
you can be intentional if you don't think about the the consequences of what you're going to say or what you're going to do. you know
Mm.
so yeah, the old angel was very, very
Woo.
radical.
Girl was aggressive and radical, but we loved it, hey? We loved it. Some of the most radical people created a lot of change.
Yes, yes.
But I'm glad that even as time goes on, you've evolved into, a better and even better version.
And a better
Um,
one is coming.
exactly, and a better one is coming tomorrow. The day after tomorrow is still coming, still building on. Just put comma, no full stop.
No full stop.
Um,
You fall, you get up again, you continue. What?
yeah. So as we conclude, what can we expect from Angel? What are you up to right now that we can be looking forward to?
What I'm up to. I hope the CIA is not listening to this. What I'm up to. So right now I'm working on two different projects that both have to do with one is about providing a space or a platform for Black people and people of the African diaspora to
Mhm.
come together and share, and learn from each other's experiences, kind of like a social network for people of the diaspora, because I realize that we might be all Black, but inside of our Blackness there's just a lot of other things that make us different from
There's
each other.
levels to it.
There's levels to it.
Mm,
All that. So, and that can also help with the Black people coming together, in
mm,
unity. So I'm working on that. And I have another project that I'm working on that's a little bit more political, on the political side.
mm,
Kind of like a career switch that I'm planning to do in the
mm. Oh, okay, ma'am. Okay.
so we're gonna watch out for that.
This is breaking news for me too. Hello.
Nobody knows. Like, this is breaking news
You first
on Gallup Elevation Talks. No,
period. You first heard it here, ladies and gentlemen.
if Twitter talks, you're gonna have to tell them you first heard it from Gallup Elevation.
Okay.
That's a little bit of me, but yeah, I'm trying to navigate through this pandemic without putting a lot of pressure on myself and on people. So just living the moment.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Angel. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that wisdom, those gems. You shared a lot today, and you got me thinking as well. I definitely am going to be intentional with where I spend my dollar, not only in the United States, but as well when I go back home to Botswana, because I think that's another thing, that's another elephant that we can tackle in a different area, at a different time, I mean. But I hope that you guys watching have been able to get the same kind of knowledge that I've gotten and be as enlightened and elevated as I have been on this episode. And please reach out to me if you want to get in touch with Angel. I'll also put her contact details down below, and as well support the businesses that she's going on, the social media one, and as well her political career that's coming up. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for that. And as well, one other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a package on our Instagram and our Facebook and LinkedIn of a list of Black-owned businesses in different industries. And I think I'm going to need your help with that.
I can already send you a couple.
Yeah. I think we should create a packet with.
That's a really good idea. Yeah.
With that, and maybe throughout the week, or maybe just one post, we'll just put them out there, and people can be able to kind of filter and look through them and see what they like as well.
No, that is very
yeah. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Angel, and everybody. Have a good week and take care of yourselves.
And stay tuned on Gallume Innovation Talk.
Period.
Bye-bye.
Bye.